What's up? My name is Domani Jackson. You're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition. Unmatched on-track intensity. And triple-header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Throw in a can't-miss concert, camping, and the legendary atmosphere of Talladega Boulevard. And you've got more than a race. You've got Talladega. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you today from the home office in Birmingham, but I can't wait to be in Tuscaloosa this weekend for the home opener, Alabama football against ULM, coming up on Saturday. Very busy show coming up, all about Crimson Tide football and some changes coming up to Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. We'll go through everything coming up on the show, plus our headlines for today, thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young, the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. Let's see what's coming up on the show this afternoon. Very busy, as I mentioned, with 4 guests coming up, starting with Crimson Tide cornerback Domani Jackson in a one-on-one conversation. If you missed it earlier this week, we visited with offensive lineman Wilkin Formby, but now today, Domani Jackson joins us from the LLH Healthcare Advantage Center. Then we'll be talking with Lindsay Cline from Build Giants, Alabama, as we have an exciting new partnership and something you'll see very noticeable on the field at Bryant-Denny Stadium this season, an on-field logo at Saban Field. So we'll talk about Build Giants, Alabama, all about that with Lindsay, followed by Jarret Johnson, former Crimson Tide linebacker. He'll join us to share his thoughts on what he sees from Alabama so far this season and just some thoughts as well about his Crimson Tide career. Look forward to that conversation with Jarret Johnson. Then we'll learn more about our opponent this weekend with the other booth presented by Marathon. Mike Hammett, the voice of the ULM Warhawks, will join us, and then we'll close out the show by hearing from Kalen DeBoer with his final word from last night's edition of Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show. Crimson Tide football again, home coming up against ULM this Saturday. Crimson Tide did well the last time they played the Warhawks. 63-7 was the final score. Great effort in 2022. Alabama's really enjoyed some home openers. We did see the season opening streak come to a close last week against Florida State in terms of season opening victories, but when the Crimson Tide play their first game in Tuscaloosa to begin a season, 23 times. That's been a good time for Alabama fans, as the Crimson Tide have enjoyed 23 straight home opening victories. Sad news to report, we talked about it on our broadcast on Saturday, the passing of former great Crimson Tide player, one of the best defenders ever to wear the Crimson and play in the NFL, Leroy Jordan. Very sad news that we got that he passed away. Again, a tremendous man, someone we've gotten to visit with in the last few years during his time visiting Tuscaloosa. Just a tremendous ambassador for Alabama football and just the game of football in general. But we mourn the passing of Leroy Jordan, again, passing away this past Saturday. Taking a look at Crimson Tide athletics, some big road trips, big opportunities coming up for Alabama. First of all, on the road tonight against North Carolina, 6 p.m. the start time against the defending national champion, and then Duke, a team that's been ranked number 1 this season. That'll be the opponent for West Hart and the Crimson Tide coming up at 12:30. The volleyball team, after a winning start in Tuscaloosa last week, now they're on the road to the Chattanooga Classic. They'll be taking on UTC, the host for the event, as well as the Cincinnati Bearcats. We certainly look forward to that. Look forward to being at Champions Lane coming up as we take a look at the map for Vector Security Champions Lane. All the details right here, and you can also go online at any time, championslane.com. You can access this map. It's also available on all of our social media platforms as well, but we're going to have a great time. Starting at 2:45, Champions Lane will open. At 3:30, we'll be on stage at the Bud Light Backyard. Chris Stewart, Tyler Watts, Corey Reamer, and myself for the beginning of our 3 hours of pregame coverage leading you up to Alabama against ULM, and then we'll have a pregame concert coming up as well. Head games, if you love Foreigner, we have the band for you. They're actually going to even play before we take the stage, 2:45 to 3:15, and then after we're done with the pregame radio show, 4:45, really up until 6:15, just 30 minutes prior to kickoff. They will be rocking the house at Vector Security Champions Lane. Some Alabama baseball players will be signing autographs as well, some food truck displays, really interactive way to have some fun before game day. You can check out the Walk of Champions coming up at 4:30. Then still have all the fun, and then don't forget Legends Lounge. There is never a cover charge in there. Ice cold beer. It is the place to tailgate and hang out before each and every Crimson Tide football game. Again, Vector Security Champions Lane. It is the best pregame fan fest in all of college football. It's back, and it's better than ever in 2025. Can say the same about Domani Jackson, a cornerback for the Crimson Tide, who joined Alabama last season from Southern California, made an impact right away as a starter for the Crimson Tide, and he once again was in the starting lineup this past Saturday for Alabama against Florida State. He joins us to talk about year 2 at Alabama and what to expect from the Crimson Tide this season. Roll Tide, welcome back to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Roger Hoover now pleased to be joined by Alabama cornerback Domani Jackson. 2025 season is here. Domani, Roll Tide. How's all the offseason work been getting ready for this moment for Alabama to start the year?
Yeah, I mean, it's been memorable, to say the least. I think all of us, we're all locked in. We're all ready to go, showcase our talent, and bring one back.
We're certainly excited for that. For you, year 2 at Alabama. What's the biggest change between year 1 to year 2?
I think just being more comfortable with myself, with the team, with everyone around me. It's always hard coming in. Everyone's new. We just got to all learn each other, and I think we did a great job from January 14th all the way till now. So we'll showcase that August 30th. But, it's one game at a time, one day at a time. So we just got to do that.
How'd you see this fan base kind of embrace you as one of their own last year?
Yeah, I mean, they had 2 superstars leave, and, I had to fill that role. And I felt as this community, the fans, everyone around me, led me into that role. So I'm happy.
Was there much of an adjustment playing against some SEC teams after your career at USC?
I mean, I tell them on this, SEC is different. I will admit that. I mean, I was a kid not trying to think that, but, I went to previous school or whatnot, but SEC ball is different. But football is football at the end of the day, wherever you go. I mean, if you shine, you grind, just do what you do, you're going to make it.
And this is the first time we talked to you. And normally we kind of go through the bios of everybody getting their way here. Where'd you grow up and how'd you get into football?
Okay, so I'm a military baby. So I grew up everywhere. I'll probably say I started football in Hawaii. I lived in Ohio, Pennsylvania, California, Hawaii. So, I mean, I've been all over the place. But where I was grounded, I have to say Hawaii.
Did you grow up a huge college football fan? I mean, the time difference, does that make it a little different trying to keep up with NFL, college games and stuff?
I mean, yeah. I'm a diehard Michigan fan. So I grew up a Michigan fan. We just got to play them. My boy Will Johnson's there, or was there, I should say. And, yeah, Michigan fan.
And then you eventually settle in Southern California, and then you get to go to Modern Day high school.
Yeah, exactly. So I left Hawaii at age 10.
Yeah.
I went to Winter Circle Prep Academy my 8th grade year, got ready for high school. Eventually went to Modern Day High School all 4 years, and then went to SC, and now I'm here.
Is it almost like playing college football when you go to Modern Day with so many college players, NFL players they produced?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like here. I mean, that program is amazing. Kind of the same thing my head coach, Bruce Rollinson, did as Nick Saban and built that. Military. It's straight like military. It's just go in and work, and bring home championships. So, I mean, that's what I did. I think I went maybe like 40-something and 2.
Wow.
30-something and 2. Yeah, I lost 2 to St. John Bosco. That's one of the schools I lost to. Every team outside the country or outside the states we beat. So, in-house battles.
And now you're reunited with some of those guys here. You're one of 4 Modern Day players to make their way to Alabama. How special is that bond between you 4?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're always trying to bring people from California because obviously SEC, they don't really, or previously Alabama didn't recruit California kids, and the whole 2 sides of the corners, are all California kids. So we're just trying to make a name for our state.
Yeah, you and Xavier Brown, the other corner for the Crimson Tide. How did you see him step up as a freshman last year?
Yeah, I mean, I tell him all the time, like, coming in as a freshman and playing definitely Alabama, like, that's different. You don't really get that opportunity, but, I mean, I know what kind of dude he was. He's talented, but, I mean, he's young, but he's not young, if that makes sense. He's super smart. He knows the defense, and coaches trust him. He went out there and ball. So I'm proud of him.
And both of you had huge moments last year to end games for the Crimson Tide. First, tell us about your perspective of the final play against Georgia when he got the key interception to make sure we got the win.
Yeah, so, I mean, we knew the ball had to go in the end zone, so we just protecting the end zone. He made a hell of a play. Probably stick with him the rest of his life. And then I got a little too happy. I kind of like jumped up, slammed to the ground, but it's just all enjoyment. It's all love. I'm happy.
Friendly fire.
Yeah, I was happy for him.
Yeah, that was really cool. And then a few weeks later, you had your moment at the noon ball game again, South Carolina, trying to get the ball in the end zone. Just walk us through that game-ending interception you had.
Yeah, so a lot of people know I actually had a super bad injury coming out. Like I couldn't walk and couldn't do anything. But they was trying to get me to go to the ER, and I was like, nah, I got to finish the game. So went back out there. I think I went back towards third quarter about, and it was the last play, and I knew they had to obviously go deep again. And then I caught the ball, and I was like, damn, do I have to? Because I caught it like 2 steps before the end zone, right? And the momentum brought me into the end zone. And I was like, is this going to be a safety? And then I was like, I got to go. And then I was just running. And then a lot of people say, get down. But I looked up, and it was 4 seconds left on the clock. So I was like, I'm going to just run to the clock run out. And then I got down. Everybody's yelling at me. I'm like, I just ran the clock. I'm not going to score. But, yeah, it was a surreal moment. It was fun.
Yeah, 100,000 people in this stadium. Malachi Moore probably was screaming at you louder than anybody. Could you hear him at that time?
I mean, I really didn't hear him.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew the video. You can't hear anything in the moment, so you just got to go where the coaches preach all summer. So I just did that.
Did very well for the Crimson Tide this past year. And now you get to come back along with Xavier, the 2 corners for the Crimson Tide. Very experienced secondary. How much of a strength on this football team is this secondary?
We got some dogs. I'll say that. Like we talk, every single day about it. There's no drop off. Like, how a lot of schools, the 2s go out. Like, our 3s are just as good as us, So it's like, we need a breather or we need a break. Like 2s, 3s come in, and it's going to be no drop off. One thing about our room, especially, like, we all trust each other and we all love each other. Like, we all hang out outside of football. So it's like we build that trust. We, build the communication keys, just everything like that outside of football. So when we step on the field, like, I know I got your back. He knows I got his back, just stuff like that. So it's just like the little things when it comes to stuff like that.
And how about the communication you guys got to have with the safeties?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we all meet as one. We all same word, same sentence, stuff like that. So I mean, it's some plays where it's like, go ahead, Keon, or Bray, or Mintz, just jump it. I'm gonna protect you. It's just little stuff like that. So we always got each other's back, definitely back in.
You especially got to have that in practice.
Yeah,
spring in the summer against Alabama's wide receiving core, because this may be one of the best Alabama receiving cores we've seen in a few years. How does that make you guys better?
I mean, you can go top and bottom. Like, them dudes is amazing, and they're all different players. So that's what makes it special. Not all the same player. Like, each one of them have different, I want to say responsibilities, but like features to them that make them who they are. So I mean, they're great to go against. It's the best of the best each day at practice.
Is there one you normally go up against a little more than others?
Germ.
Yeah, what makes him tough to defend?
I can't give it away, but Germ, he can do everything. Germ can do everything. Like, he can do everything. And he's great at everything he do.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, again, there's a lot of excitement for this defense, especially. How do you see, like, a linebacker like Deontay Lawson, who was lost at the end of the year with injury, but he makes the decision to come back? How much does that help you guys on the field?
Yeah, I mean, he was our captain last year. Just having him back and all the other people in the front, our D-line, like JJ, for instance, he's another one who had able to come back. And it's just a confidence in them. They bring us along when he may see something off or something down. And he's just that great leader that everyone needs in the defense, and he's a hell of a player.
And then in the coaching staff, a great leader, of course, Coach Linguist. But how about Jason Jones impacting this staff?
Yeah. Me and Coach Jones had a one-on-one when he first got here, and I just had to introduce everyone to him. He just wanted to really know what everyone was working on, what they need to work on, stuff like that. But he's a great coach to have around. Obviously, he played here. He's a great coach.
Now it's year 2 for you at Alabama. Just what's your favorite part of game day, especially here in Tuscaloosa?
When we drive past the quad, it's just like all the fans, everyone's cheering. You get off the bus, there's about 50,000 people just right there screaming, ready to go. Gets you in that mode. And then when you finally run out that tunnel's different. Just every time it just gives you goosebumps. Like, it's different here.
That's a special place. Well,
It's
you're a
special
special
here.
player for the Crimson Tide.
Appreciate
Domani, just thank you for the time you've given us. All the best for what's coming up this season. Thank you. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition, and triple header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
All the best to Domani Jackson and the Crimson Tide as they look for their first win of the season this Saturday against ULM. Can't wait to be at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and when you're sitting in the stands looking at the field, you'll see something different at both of our 25-yard lines. Build Giants Alabama, an on-field logo for the first time at an Alabama sporting event. I can't wait to tell you more about this partnership, and that's why we had Lindsay Cline join us from the U.S. Navy Maritime Industrial Base to talk about what exactly is Build Giants Alabama and the unique partnership that's been built between Build Giants Alabama and Crimson Tide Athletics. Here's more with Lindsay Cline. Welcome back to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Now, please be joined by somebody that's part of an exciting new partnership at the University of Alabama, and that is Lindsay Cline. She works with the U.S. Navy's Maritime Industrial Base, and Build Giants Alabama is coming on field at Saban Field. Lindsay, it is great to see you, and first of all, just congratulations on this partnership. How did it come together between the Maritime Industrial Base and the University of Alabama?
Good morning, Roger. It is so fantastic for us to have this partnership, and it's something that has actually been in the works for a little while. You know, we had a smaller partnership with the University of Alabama last year, and we had such an incredible experience there that we really saw the value in making sure that we were expanding that partnership, mainly because the University of Alabama is such an incredible engine for really driving the workforce development message that we want to make sure that we are spreading throughout the state to get folks really, really interested, engaged, trained, recruited, and hired to build submarines and ships on behalf of the United States Navy.
So great exposure coming up this season at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium with an on-field logo, Build Giants Alabama. Tell us more about this initiative.
So glad you asked that, Roger, because, you know, that word giants is something I really want to make sure that people really, you know, are starting to associate with maritime, you know. So here in Alabama, we started building submarines last year, and it's not something that a lot of folks really know about, right? This is a really cool thing that is now happening here in Mobile, Alabama. And so when we talk about giants, we're talking about the vessels that are really serving our Navy, right? So not just submarines, but also surface ships. And we have a long history in Alabama of building ships, going back a really long way. So when we use the word giants, we are referring to submarines and ships, and we are building those right here in Alabama. And that's what Build Giants Alabama is all about, is making sure that we are letting folks know what's happening here and also giving them the opportunity to join our mission by building these vessels.
And of course, fans are going to see the logo at the 25-yard line coming up at Saban Field, a name just last year for the former head coach of the University of Alabama Crimson Tide, Nick Saban, and his family. And also, he is involved in this initiative as well, which I know is definitely exciting.
It is so exciting. You know, I mean, I don't think that there's anyone out there who knows how to build a giant better than Coach Saban, right? So that partnership really meant a lot to us. You know, his endorsement of our mission is just critical. You know, he is a big part of Alabama, and having him on board to help us spread this message is so special to us.
So it's a great partnership between the University of Alabama and, of course, the Maritime Industrial Base, and specifically partnering with a university like Alabama and then community colleges all throughout the state. How important is that to your mission?
Oh my goodness. You know, it's really important for us to make sure that we're, you know, connecting the dots between our Alabama community college system and our four-year schools, right? And so, you know, we hire a lot of skilled trades workers to build these vessels. And so we are hiring welders, we are hiring HVAC experts, we are hiring electricians and machinists, and all of those people are just critical to our mission. But you know what else is important is engineers, right? And HR professionals and people who know how to do marketing so that we can make sure that we're getting the word out. And so when you go to work in a shipyard, you are really combining skilled trades workers and four-year, you know, graduates. And we want to make sure that we are connecting the dots there as much as possible and giving giving everyone an opportunity to work together. So what's really cool about this partnership is that we are going to have the ability to inject actual maritime-centric curriculum into the engineering program at the University of Alabama. And they have been so fabulous to work with. I've been up to visit. I've spent a lot of time with the Formula SAE team. 250 members on that team. I think it's the largest in the nation. And what's really interesting about that is that they're not only building race cars for the engineering program, they're also repairing the machines that are building the race cars. So they're doing things like machining and welding, but they're also doing a lot of additive manufacturing there. And all of these things are really, really critical to building these giants for the Navy. So we're going to make sure that we are leveraging our partnership to really make sure that we're bringing some great attention to these students and giving them opportunities to work with us in the shipyards.
When thinking about kind of numbers and the number of opportunities that are out there, what is the Navy looking for specifically here in the state of Alabama?
We need to hire about 1,000 people per year, right? And what's really important to know about that, Roger, is yes, we have a lot of work that's going on down in Mobile on the Blue Water and the Gulf Coast, right? But this is a mission that extends well into North Alabama. So we don't just have, workers that are going down to the Gulf Coast. We have suppliers all the way up to Muscle Shoals. So we have to make sure that we are really doing a good job of ensuring that the entire state is aware of the mission and of the opportunities that exist to support it.
What's most exciting about the future of Bill Giants Alabama?
This is a 30-year mission, Roger. And what's really exciting about it to me as a lifelong Alabamian and someone who, I grew up in Calhoun County and I've been here my whole life. And I am watching our state become this epicenter for maritime, right? It's just fascinating. I think most Alabamians, if we didn't grow up on the Gulf Coast, we don't have a lot of awareness of what goes on down there, right? So a lot of folks don't know that we invented Mardi Gras in Mobile. A lot of folks have never been to Mardi Gras. They've never seen these incredible ships that have been built or that are being built down there, right? So what's really fun for me is I spend a lot of time in small rooms in rural communities, letting people know that this work is now here in Alabama. And not only is the work here, not only are the jobs and the careers here, but there's training to support them. So we're building out relationships with the Alabama Community College system. We're building out programs. We are making investments. We are intentionally providing resources throughout the entire state to make sure that our people are part of this mission. And that is really, really good work. That is goodness, Roger. And it's something that I'm super proud of. And I'm really excited that we get to continue to do.
That's outstanding, Lindsay. Well, not just for Alabama fans who are curious more about Bill Giants Alabama, but specifically if there are any skilled workers that may be eligible for this program, where can they go online to find out more information and find out how they can get involved?
BillGiantsAlabama.com. And we also have, of course, social media to support that. And definitely stay tuned. We will be providing lots more resources as we roll out a little bit deeper, but you can find our job listings there and get more information about careers and training.
Well, Lindsay Cline, congratulations on this new partnership and an experience that's going to be really great, I feel like, for the University of Alabama as well as everybody with Bill Giants Alabama. Just thank you so much for the time you've given us and all the best. And can we get a Roll Tide out the door?
Roll Tide.
What's up? Josh Cuevas with Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Appreciate the partnership of Bill Giants Alabama. And when you think of some Giants that have played football for the Crimson Tide throughout the last 20 years or so, got to include the name Jarret Johnson, a linebacker for the Crimson Tide who is an All-American, a two-time captain here at the University of Alabama, and somebody that played, I believe, 11 years in the National Football League, a very long career for the Baltimore Ravens and the San Diego Chargers. He joins us to talk about his Alabama football career, even a funny anecdote about our color analyst, Tyler Watts, but you'll have to stay tuned for that one. But great conversation with Jarret Johnson. He is our Legend of the Week as we get ready for him to be honored coming up this Saturday. Jarret, it's great to see you this weekend as you and your teammates get to come back to Tuscaloosa. How's everything going for you, first of all?
It's going good, man. Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to get back very often, but yeah, I'm excited to get back to Tuscaloosa, and it's going to be a good weekend.
Certainly will be, as you get to reconnect with some of your teammates and again celebrate everything about Alabama football. And for you, what was the connection to Alabama? You're originally from the state of Florida. How'd you end up playing for the Crimson Tide?
So I grew up in Central Florida, but my mom's from Miami, so I grew up kind of a Miami fan. And then I think I was like 11 years old, 92, when Alabama beat University of Miami in the national championship. I wasn't really a fan, but I just remember that school. It's like, man, that school is cool. You know, they just the crimson jerseys and the numbers on the side of the helmet. And I just always just liked them. And so once I got to high school and started going through the whole recruiting process, you know, I had a lot of options. I was offered by pretty much every SEC school except for one or two. And I just waited till Alabama offered me, and I hated the recruiting process. And once they offered me, I committed and was all in. So, you know, I had it was a volatile time there, you know, between DuBose and Franchione, but I think it, you know, definitely made me a better person and definitely set the stage for my NFL career. But yeah, it's, you know, I didn't really grow up a fan, but just always admired the university and the history and the culture around Alabama football.
When you first signed with Alabama, who were some of the key coaches that recruited you or you made a really good connection with and made it feel like home for you?
Yeah, so Ronnie Cottrell was my recruiter. You know, he had recruited me to Florida State before he came to Alabama, so I already had a good relationship with him. And then Lance Thompson had been at Georgia Tech and had also recruited me to Georgia Tech. And then when he came over, I already had a relationship with him. So, you know, it was a natural fit, just my relationship with both those guys. And, you know, Ronnie back in the day was, you know, one of the top recruiters in the country. Just a really good guy. I still talk to him on and off to this day. He's at, I believe it's at TR Miller, Bruton High School now. He's kind of bounced around from some small colleges to different high schools across South Alabama. So, and then Lance Thompson, he's been back to Alabama, I think like 3 or 4 times, and now he's up at, I think it's at UNC.
Well, for you and your Alabama career, what games, what moments really stand out to you?
I would say number one would be the 2 Florida games, you know, being that I'm from Florida, you know, my high school is like 30 miles from the University of Florida, you know, so beating them in the swamp, you know, on a wild game, you know, last minute field goal and all that stuff. I mean, you know, had a bunch of family there. So that would be the first game. And then definitely the SEC championship, you know, we played Florida again. And not only was it a huge win for us and, you know, won a SEC championship, but it was my first time making big plays in a big game. You know, I was a freshman. I'd played periodically, you know, but as the year went on, I was playing better. And that particular game was my first time, you know, making a big sack on a big 3rd down, you know, tipping a ball that Reggie Grimes returned for a touchdown, and a couple other plays here and there. But it was my first time getting a taste of what it's like to make a play on a big stage. And then from there, you know, it was volatile. I mean, 2000, you know, started the season ranked number 3 and ended up 3-8. Terrible season. Got to see how quick the fan base will turn on you. Got to see, you know, how, you know, toxic people that they're masked when things are going well, how their true personalities will come out. Like, I learned a lot about human nature in that season. And even though it was probably one of the worst years of my career, I think I learned more from that year and evolved and matured and definitely hardened me. I don't believe I would have been a captain the next year if it hadn't been for that season. And I don't believe I would have had the NFL career that I had if it wasn't for that season. So, you know, from there, you know, but I would say, you know, those 2 games my freshman year, and then just kind of the whole 2000 debacle of a season, you know, with how I changed and matured as a person and shaped me as a man. You know, those are the 2 things I probably took the most from University of Alabama.
One of the key stars in 1999, running back Sean Alexander, of course. You got to go up against him in practice as just a freshman. First of all, what was that like? And then did you eventually have some good tackles on him during your NFL days?
Yeah, I did. You know, Sean was a superstar. And, you know, I know since Saban has been there, they've had, you know, 4 Heisman Trophy winners and, you know, just, you know, some unbelievable players. But in those days, Sean was like, you know, he was it. I mean, he couldn't walk to class. I mean, I had never been around, you know, fame like that. So, and he was a different player. He was a bigger guy, but he was more slippery and smooth. He had great vision. He knew how to make his cuts. Did a phenomenal job reading the offensive line in front of him and finding space. Not really a head down. He's not going to run you over. He could if he had to, but he was definitely more an invasive, slippery runner. And then, once I got to the NFL, I got to play. I played against him a handful of times. Probably the most memorable was, I think it was 2004. They came to our place, it was it was fun. They had a great offensive line, and but Ray Lewis a different animal, and Sean was trying to make friends with him, but Ray ain't making friends with nobody. So it was a fun battle to watch, seeing a player that I had revered and respected in college, and see him in person, like I'm in the game, and then watching just two high caliber, high end players compete. It was a lot of fun to watch.
Of course, one of your teammates and fellow captains, as well as now our teammate on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, Tyler Watts, our color analyst, someone I host a show with once a week. Any good Tyler Watts stories you can tell us? I'm sure there's plenty you can't tell us about.
Yeah, I don't know if I could tell this story or not, but ask him about his stomach issues in the Hawaii game. He was a little under the weather, and Tyler didn't wear a girdle. He just wore a jockstrap with his white pants, and he was having some stomach issues. But I'll set that stage and just let him finish that story. But that's probably the funniest Tyler story I can remember. But yeah, he was obviously an Alabama boy, being from Pelham, and unbelievable competitor. And it was interesting how well he fit into Dennis Franchioni's scheme with the option and the zone running scheme that they were doing. But yeah, ask him about his little tummy issues in Hawaii game.
We'll do that. That's really good intel. You mentioned your experience at Alabama set you up for the NFL. What are you most proud of when you look back at your NFL days? I imagine just the longevity, how long you were able to play for the Ravens and then the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the number one thing I'm proud of is the teammates that I have. I'm by no means a household name. I mean, hell, Alabama fans don't even know who I am. But the caliber of players that I played with, that I'm still close with today, Ray Lewis, Haloti Ngata, Terrell Suggs. I've played with multiple Hall of Famers, had some phenomenal coaches. That's the thing that I'm most proud of, is the people in my circle that are not only great players, but great men, that made me a better person, a better player. That's the thing I'm the most proud of, but secondly, it would be, probably my durability and longevity. I played in, 129 consecutive games. It took me 10 years before I missed a game due to injury. And that's half the battle, is just being on the field. I played a whole host of different positions, starting as a college defensive tackle and moving to like an interior 2-gap style 5 technique, and then ultimately getting moved to linebacker and finishing my career at defensive end and outside linebacker. So I played Mike, I played Will. That's the thing I'm most proud of is my teammates, who are in my circle now, and then just my ability to play any position at any time and stay there for a long time.
What have you been up to since your playing days came to a close?
So I've done a little bit of everything, similar to my playing career, kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. I did some scouting. I did some freelance scouting for the Ravens. I traveled with the team for 3 years. They're color analysts for the radio, for their flagship radio. I've done some real estate stuff. I ran a charter boat for a little bit. I grew up fishing, so ran a charter boat, and I still tournament fish today and do some stuff on the water. Own a coffee shop. I'm a full-time soccer dad, so kind of all over the place. I don't know. People ask me what I do, and I'm like, I don't really know what I do day to day, but I get up early, I stay busy all day, and I go to bed tired. So Whether that's yard work. Yesterday, I was cutting down a tree and fixing a toilet, and that pretty much ate up my whole day. So, but yeah, I got 2 girls, got a beautiful wife that I met at the University of Alabama, and I stay busy, and I try to keep in shape, and that's pretty much my day.
Good way to live. Well, Jarret, all the best to you as you come back to Tuscaloosa, honored as one of our honorary captains coming up this weekend. We look forward to catching up with you again down the road at some point, but thank you for your time. Roll Tide.
Yep, Roll Tide.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition, and triple header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
This week's opponent, the ULM Warhawks. They're already off to a 1-0 start this season, and their broadcaster Mike Hammett joins us for the other booth, presented by Marathon, to give us a detailed scouting report on ULM and what we can expect from Bryant Vincent's Warhawks here on Saturday. And Mike, it's great to see you. Tell us, first of all, about the undefeated ULM Warhawks and their start to the season.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Roger. It's 1-0 start, which is always good. 29-0 win over St. Francis last Thursday to open the season. And, a game that wasn't real pretty for ULM. Really kind of felt like they're sleepwalking a little bit in that ball game. But, there's been ULM teams in the past that played flat in a game like that, and it would come down to the last possession to beat an FCS team or something. And so they won 29-0, which I think speaks a little bit to this team. But we had a weather delay about an hour and a half anyway, and the teams got pulled off the field 50 minutes before kickoff. So they had to sit around for about 2 hours or so, came back out for a 10-minute warm-up, and then it was right into the game. And I think that impacted how the Warhawks played a little bit in that ball game. But we'll see this week. It's going to be real tough. It was tough to tell last week with an FCS opponent, and especially an FCS opponent like St. Francis that announced they're going to Division III back in March, and so they got hit really hard with guys transferring out. And, and now this week going to play Alabama, it's really hard to tell just exactly where this team is at. For our fans, we probably got to wait a couple more weeks. We get a bye week next week and then go to UTEP, and then we might get a real measure of where this team is. But I think the optimism is still there. Some folks may be hitting the panic button about 29-0 over St. Francis, but I think they feel good about where this program's headed under Bryant Vincent in his second year.
Well, in a 29-0 final score, the number that really stands out is the 0, the nothing that this defense was able to post, regardless of who you play in college football. What stood out to you defensively about the Warhawks last week?
They did a really nice job of stopping the run. I mean, St. Francis was trying to keep things tight, run a lot of fly sweeps, try to get to the edge. And they did a nice job for the most part bottling that up. They only let the red flash get across the 50 one time in the game. It was really a pretty dominant defensive effort, I think. And then, fans are upset about the offense, which still rushed for 311 yards in the game. But it's the defense really was on the edge is where it's set. Billy Poland and Cavante Wells have both done a very nice job. They're maybe the best edge tandem, one of the best edge tandems in the Sun Belt coming into this year, and they both stayed. Both were pursued, both were offered, to get in the portal and money to go somewhere else, and they both decided to stay at ULM and see this thing through and try to get to a bowl game. They added some beef in the middle, if you will. Cliff Mosley comes over from Henderson State, where he didn't play a lot, but he has a history with Cavante Wells and Billy Poland at the JUCO level, and so they have a little bit of chemistry there. Added depth at the linebacker spot, some guys that can fly around, especially, Cedrian Langston and Tyrese Hopkins come back. They add in the transfer portal a guy who was a JUCO All-American last year, Noah Flemings, and Marcus Ross comes in as a transfer from Mississippi State as well. And the secondary, they wanted to get deeper there. They feel like they got to be a man coverage team when they're doing things best. I don't know that they're going to play man on Saturday against Alabama, but they will play. That's what they want to play ideally. And they did load up on some guys that they feel like can play man to man in the secondary. So they really added a lot of depth. They feel good about the ones and rolling into the twos. They like to play 18 to 22 guys, call them co-starters and go from there. But they really did a nice job adding to the depth, and I feel like we really saw that last Thursday against St. Francis.
And then on the offensive side of the ball, just what's the personality and kind of style of play the Warhawks want to have this year?
It's going to be a power game. They want to throw it a little bit more than they did last year, but this team is based on running the football. It's a 12 personnel set, which is what Bryant Vincent wants to run. And so they'll feature 4 to 5 different running backs. Last year it was the true freshman Ahmad Hardy, who's now at Missouri and put up 100 yards in his debut at the Tigers last week. But that single feature back is probably gone because they added so much depth, because running backs saw what they can do in Bryant Vincent's system, so that they really loaded up in the offseason. Braylon McReynolds, a Mobile native, South Alabama transfer, leads the way. He had his first career 100-yard game against St. Francis. Behind him, you got Zach Palmer-Smith, a transfer from Richmond that's posted over 2,000 yards in his career. And then Dorian Lewis took a year off out of New Mexico. Comes back this year at ULM. And then, Deshaun Ford is kind of the headliner at the back end, a kid that was on the Navy All-American game last year on NBC and committed to ULM on the Navy All-American game. Probably the first time ever ULM's been mentioned on the Navy All-American game. So, really a big step forward there. And they're going to pound the ball. That's what they want to do. But again, if they can get that passing game, take a little bit of pressure off, I think that's been the focus this offseason, is trying to find a little more in the passing game than what they had last year.
Yeah, speaking of the quarterback play, what can you tell us about Armenta?
Yeah, it is really, it's only his second year at ULM. It's really his third year in the system, though, because he played for Bryant Vincent when he was the offensive coordinator at New Mexico. So they've been together now for 3 years, and Coach really likes the way Aiden's playing, the confidence he has. The numbers against St. Francis weren't great, but he was also hamstrung by some drops and some other things that, just didn't quite go his way. The timing was a little off on a couple of plays, so hopefully that gets better from game 1 to game 2. But he has really taken command of this. You can really see the leadership he has this season. And he's a guy that he can run a little bit, too. We saw that against St. Francis. He didn't show it a lot last year, but he took off, had I believe, about a 40-yard quarterback draw against St. Francis. So he's a guy that I think is starting to come into his own, build his confidence, and he's only a redshirt sophomore. He's still got a couple more years that he can play college football. So he's a guy that's really, really started to develop this year.
Well, you mentioned the name Bryant Vincent, the head coach at ULM. For those of us like me that live in Birmingham, very familiar with him and the good work that he did at UAB. But how'd you see him come to Monroe last season and kind of make this program his own?
He has seen what's needed in this program as far as getting more money into the program, getting more help as far as facilities, nutrition, revamping the strength program, athletic training. He's been big on getting out and meeting people and just trying to drive more money into it. And he's done a great job. The nutrition program has been completely transformed in 1 year with him. They have done some little things to the facilities, just some cosmetic things, but things that have needed to be done for some time. So while the overall structure of it didn't change, it sure looks a heck of a lot better now, and certainly is much more appealing to some of the guys coming in. But he has dove in. I mean, it can be evidence, too, that he's now interim athletic director in addition to being the head coach, and he's the offensive coordinator for this bunch, too. He has pretty much said he likes this athletic director role because he can kind of cut through some things and figure out, hey, where's this mess that's been built up over the years? Let's get rid of that. Let's streamline this and make this flow. And he's really been very hands-on. I think he likes doing it all. He's kind of that control guy, but it's really changed things. It's changed the perception of this program. I've been around here since the fall of 2018, and by far this is the most excited the Monroe community has been for a Warhawk football season. And they really feel like this could be one of the better teams they've had. I mean, it's 30-plus years of being an FBS program with one bowl game in that time. They feel like this is the team to do that for the second time. This is the team that may go get that first bowl trophy for this program. They feel like all of that's coming together, and it's because of how Bryant Vincent has gotten the community to invest, but also in how he's invested in the community to get the folks to buy in, too.
You mentioned some cosmetic changes, and apologies for those listening on radio, especially on game day, but I got to ask about the new helmets. No offense to the ULM logo, which is nice, looks great on the white helmet, but one of those you have on the shelf and what I believe you wore in the first game, that kind of Warhawk, like fighter jet looking logo. Mm-hmm. Where did that come about? Was that debuted last season? I mean, it's a tremendous new look for you all.
Yeah, it's they had it a couple years ago. They really revamped it, streamlined it, added some different color to it last year. And so it's the shark eye and shark teeth that's on the side of the P40 Curtis Warhawk, which when they switched to the Warhawk nickname, they kind of went more the bird route at first and like we're a hawk, but now they finally have come back to what it should be, which is to look at the military ties, especially with General Chenault being from Northeast Louisiana, and he led the Flying Tigers who flew those P-40 planes in World War II in China. So it's a nice tie-in back to all of that. And so you have what was on the nose of those planes on the helmets now. And they've unveiled a couple other concepts. Of course, they've got the military star on one of those concepts on a black helmet. And then they're also going to have, I believe, a different one coming out soon. I don't want to spill anything too soon, but I believe there's another one coming yet, so that they haven't quite announced yet. So a couple different looks, but this one is my favorite by far. It's such a nice, clean look. It's different and really looked great last week wearing the all whites at home. I'm not sure what ULM's wearing on game day at Alabama this week, but sure looks good when it's the all whites put together.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, would love to see that on the field at Saban Field coming up on Saturday. It'd be one of the more unique helmets Alabama has faced throughout the years. Certainly good to see ULM back on the Crimson Tide schedule. You mentioned it, a bye week coming up the week after, and then you really start to get into the teeth of this Sun Belt schedule. If you could just kind of set the table for what's ahead for the Warhawks once we get through this week in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, this is the bye week is big after this because as a school from the Sun Belt coming into Alabama, you want to go out and compete and, give it everything you've got, but you usually get banged up in games like this. So it's nice to have a week off and repair and kind of get ready to go because after that, it gets real. Another non-conference game to go to UTEP in 2 weeks. So that we feel like is kind of the big game to, whether this team's going to get to 6 wins or not. You got to find a way to beat another team who's scrapping to get to 6 like UTEP is. And then Arkansas State at home. ULM's lost 15 in a row to A-State. They've got to snap that streak. They have been so close so many times, and I think they really have that one circled. Then back-to-back weeks at Northwestern, at Coastal Carolina. Northwestern, that may be the most winnable Power 4 game ULM has had on the schedule in some time. Not saying they're going to do it, but I think they like their chances possibly going to Evanston to open November. They then get Troy at home. They go to Southern Miss, which is a completely different group with Charles Huff this year. And then finally, November, home to Old Dominion, which has never come to Monroe before. And teams usually struggle that first trip to Monroe. If they've never made the trip, it's one of the more unique trips in college football. So we'll see how they handle that. And then home to South Alabama, and then on the road to Texas State, and then the Cajuns to end the year. Don't call them that other name. So that's what we do around here. So it's a tough schedule. We feel like the Sun Belt West is as balanced as it's ever been, and feel like there's opportunities for wins, but they also feel like 50-50 games. They could easily go the other way. So got to find a way to stay healthy here through Alabama and then have a chance to really go take care of business and maybe possibly do something historic for what ULM football's been through.
And finally, this is the first time we've talked to you, Mike, since these two schools played back in 2022. We knew there was some realignment on the horizon for the Sun Belt, but since that time, how have you seen the Sun Belt transforming? It seems like more on people's radar now, especially with some of the great opportunities to watch the games on the ESPN family of networks.
Yeah, they've done a great job of buying into the ESPN part of it, and E Plus gets some criticism here and there, especially when you talk about Power 4 leagues and whatnot, but the Sun Belt's embraced it, and it's really done a nice job for them. And in turn, they've gotten a couple extra games picked up on linear ESPN networks here and there. And so ULM actually had 5 or 6 games, I think, make it to linear last year, which was great. Really the Sun Belt, though, I think where they've survived and thrived in this era, they've really gone about getting football brands and not necessarily the market and worried about all that. I mean, you go all the way back to when they added App State, Georgia Southern, when South Alabama and Georgia State started their football programs, that while they didn't have the tradition, they're in an area that fits geographically. And then this last round, they had been in such a position that they were then attractive for a school like Southern Miss, for Marshall, for Old Dominion to come over. James Madison has been waiting for a long, long time to make that leap and waiting for the right opportunity, and they felt like the Sun Belt was finally there, that they could make that jump and make that move. And to stay as tight as they are geographically, to pick the right brands and all of that, the Sun Belt's done a nice job advancing. It's a much different league than when I first arrived here, and certainly challenging for one of those top spots in the group of 5, group of 6, whatever you want to call it, conferences at this point.
Well, look forward to seeing what happens on Saturday between Alabama and ULM. And then, Micah, just all the best to you and the Warhawks coming up in this 2025 season. Just thank you for the time you've given us. Safe travels to Alabama coming up this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Crimson Tide against ULM, our focus this weekend here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network as we take a look at our upcoming schedule. Football, 3:30 will be the airtime coming up on Saturday. Again, that starts for us for that first hour of our pregame coverage outside Vector Security Champions Lane. Again, championslane.com for all the details. But make sure you join us. It should be a really great time, even if you're in the Legends Lounge Beer Garden. You can hear the show right there. We look forward to starting our coverage at home before the Walk of Champions on Saturday. On Sunday, Chris Stewart will talk about the game with Kalen DeBoer on the Kalen DeBoer TV show, and should add as well, we will have the booth cam presented by Regions Bank up and running for the game on Saturday as well on all of our social media platforms. Monday night, we'll talk about Alabama against ULM. Look ahead to the Alabama-Wisconsin game with Tyler Watts for Crimson Tide Rewind, 6 p.m. from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills. Then we'll be back next Tuesday and Thursday at 2 o'clock with Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR. Don't forget Hey Coach, Kalen DeBoer show as well on Wednesday. So much coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms at UA_CTSN for the very latest on Alabama athletics. As we close out the show on this Thursday afternoon, we always like to have the final word of the night be from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer. He joined Chris Stewart last night at Baumhauer's Victory Grill for Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show, and we take a look at his final word of last night as we close out this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Got to say a huge thank you to all the guests we've had today: Domani Jackson, Lindsay Cline, Jarret Johnson, Mike Hammett, Ethan Carabin, our video producer, put this entire show together, and now he'll take us out of here with the final word from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer.
Coach, yeah, you bet. We got a resilient team. I really do believe that, and it shows in what the response has been. It shows in different moments in the game, and we got to take that and we got to be even better because of our resiliency. And so this week is one where we got punched in the mouth a little bit, a lot of it, and we got to respond. And that's what these guys are doing. And I'm excited to see these guys get on the football field. We still got a lot of preparation the next couple of days to get ready, and that preparation continues up until kickoff. And then there's adjustments that happen then. And so, these guys will be there, and our coaches and staff are working extremely hard to make sure we continue to put them in the best spots possible to go be successful. So, that time will come, but we're just taking care of the moment we're in right now.
Coach DeBoer, Jeremy Bernard, thanks for the time as always. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.